Hello! Welcome to Bad at Board Games. Where we're bad at board games, so you don't have to be. I'm Topher, and today I'm going through a continuation of my top 40 games of all times. If you've not been watching the channel, you have not yet seen some of our top games. We are actually doing these separate, and by we, I mean Brad and I. Brad started with his top games, so 40 to 31. You also have seen possibly one of mine, my 40 through 31 games. We are doing these individually. And the idea behind that is I have no idea what's on his list. He has no idea what's on my lists. We don't even know what's in our videos until we get to our top 10s. We're going to be putting out these videos individually. When we get to the top 10, we're going to sit down together, surprise each other by what's on our top 10s. I think there's going to be some overlap. I think that I'm going to maybe surprise him with at least one, if not two of the games that's on my list, on my top 10. I don't know what's going to be on his top 10. I probably am going to be surprised by some of what he has there. Like I said, I think there'll be some overlap. Time will tell. We'll figure it out together when we get there. But in the meantime, we're going to continue with my top 40. Today we're going to be talking about numbers 21 through 30 on my list. The way I did my lists, in case you're curious, two things I did. I first went to my gaming shelves, took a look at all the games that I have. I also pulled up BG Stats, took a look at some of the games that I have ranked, some of the games that I've been playing, looked at BGG, took a look at all these lists and said, okay, let's sit down and rank my top 100 games. And then I went to PubMeeple. I knew I was going to be doing the PubMeeple ranking engine. It is great. If you've never done it, log into it and see. You can Google it online, just PubMeeple, go to the ranking engine, import your Board Game Geek list, or type your own list into it, and then it comes up and says, here's two games. Which would you prefer to play? Option A or option B? And I sat down, watching some TV, and played through that list. It didn't take very long. I did 100 games. That's a lot of sorting, but it wasn't bad. I was watching some Netflix while I was doing it. And then I compared the two lists, had a little bit of differences, decided to go back, figure out if there were any changes that needed to be made. And for the most part, what came out of PubMeeple is exactly what my list is. A couple little changes, and in fact, I think one of them is going to make its way into the list right now. That I decided to add into it because of some of the experience I've had playing with others, playing with friends, and just how much it means to me as a board game. So we're going to go ahead and jump in. We're going to start with number 30. Number 30 is a newer game to the hobby. It is a bit of a deck builder game, and that is The Hunger. The Hunger is a game that Brad brought to our gaming group and actually might have been one of the first games I ended up playing with Brad in the very beginning. He picked it up, I believe, at Gen Con, and we have played it several times. It has been a great game for our group to be able to get into. It's something that we've been able to teach relatively easy to a lot of people. It is a deck builder. You're going to be going through and drafting vampires or feasting on humans as you go through the game. You are moving through a map. You do have a bit of a time cruncher in because you have to do this at night. You are vampires. And so you're having to make your way away from the castle, do your feeding, collect what you need to collect, and make your way all the way back to the castle before the sun comes up. Because if the sun comes up and you're out, you're done. You're dead. You don't win. The Hunger has a little bit of what I'm looking for in a deck builder. It's not as complex of a deck builder. It's not as pure as a deck builder as some of the other games. Like in my top 40 list, you would have seen Thunderstone Advance, a classic deck builder dungeon crawler game. This one has a little bit more to it than just the deck building ability, and I love it. It's fun. It plays pretty quickly. It plays pretty easily. It's not a brain burner that's going to stop you from wanting to play another game after. Usually we'll play this and then we'll play another 2 games afterwards on one board gaming night. So The Hunger is number 30. Coming up after that, keep that out just so that we have it here. Coming up next is Eldrich Horror. This is my number 29. If you've been listening in on any of the videos, you know that I am obsessed with Lovecraftian literature and kind of the Cthulhu mythos. I love sitting down and playing these cooperative games. Generally, they're cooperative. We are trying to fight monsters and make our way across the map. One of my favorite games that I love and will always love is Arkham Horror 2nd Edition. It's a long game. It's a game that I've had sitting down playing for 8 to 10 hours and we still hadn't finished the game. I picked up Eldrich Horror. A lot of people have been recommending this to me, and it's usually been people who said they don't like Arkham Horror. Pick up Eldrich Horror. It's going to add more to the game. It's going to take away some of the fiddliness. Instead of just being in the city of Arkham, you actually are playing across the globe. The map is larger. You've got a few other mechanics that you're playing into it with some of the ways that you can acquire goods. It plays well. I don't know if I would say this is replacing Arkham Horror for me, but this is always going to be a part of my collection as well. I enjoy this game, and this, like many of the Cthulhu games, are going to be able to play pretty well solo. This one also plays pretty well solo. If you're looking for something that's going to cut off a few hours, possibly from the game, if you want the ability to travel around the world and see a little bit of culture through the various locations you're going to, the flavor text, the things that are in the cards, the locations are going to add that to the game. Whereas opposed with like Arkham, you're just in the city of Arkham trying to maintain order and hope to not die. Same style characters. You're going to start to get to know the characters that you love with the other Cthulhu games. They have great backstories, mechanics. You're going to notice a lot of overlap between this and Arkham, but it does take away some of the fiddliness of the game. I enjoy some of that fiddliness. I'm okay with that. You may not be. Check out either of them. Great expansions to both the games. I would say you need at least one of these on your shelf in your collection, if not both of them. Eldritch Horror, great game, number 29 for me. Sticking with a bit of the horror theme, you might catch a little bit of what I enjoy as we go through these games, but sticking with that, the next one is another game, kind of a dungeon crawling style game, and that is Betrayal at House on the Hill. This game is frustrating. You are playing as a group of people. You can think of them as misfits. That's how I usually think about it when we sit down, a bunch of friends exploring this haunted house. If you've ever wanted to break into an old, creepy, abandoned house, this is exactly what I think you're going to witness. And when I say it's frustrating, it's not frustrating because I don't like the game. It's frustrating because the game plays so hard against you. Similar to the Eldritch Horrors and the Arkham Horrors, with this game, the actual board is unfolding in front of you and causing things to occur. The difference with this and some of the other games, though, is that as you explore this house, as the mansion starts to build itself in front of you, as you explore more rooms, as you go through and you see things, you will start to get omens. You will start to get these artifacts maybe you can carry with you, or events that take place that cause bad things typically to happen, and eventually a haunt will take place. And at that point in time, the entire scenario changes. Because at that point in time, there's a large possibility that either bad stuff is going to happen quickly, or somebody is going to become a traitor. And either way, the story gets real. You don't have much time. Once that haunt hits, it is all hands on deck. If there's a traitor, they leave, they read what they got to do. Everybody else reads what they have to do to stop the haunt from continuing, stop the traitor from continuing. The house may explode in on itself. You may all of a sudden face instant doom and death. All kinds of things occur in this haunted house feel. I love haunted house. I'm a ghost tour guide. I enjoy the haunted side, the darker side of history, the traumatic side of history. This game feels like if I was back in college or high school trying to sneak into, Mom, Dad, sorry, I didn't ever do that, but sneak into those old abandoned houses trying to find the ghost that we know must be there. This is exactly reminds me of any of those times that we did that back growing up. If you're a cop, I didn't do that. Mom and Dad, I didn't do that. But anyways, Betrayal House on the Hill, great game. That is my number 28. Pick it up, try it sometime. You can get it all over the place. Target usually sells it. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it directly from the actual publisher itself. Check out your friendly local gaming store. You'll probably find a copy of it there as well. Great game, Betrayal House on the Hill. Coming in next for me at number 27 is another new game to me. This is a game that Brad picked up at Gen Con. It is, or at least found it shortly thereafter. It's Hadrian's Wall. This is a flip and write game. I am new to flip and write games. That is something that is kind of coming out a lot more now in the hobby. You're starting to see a lot more games that are roll and write and flip and writes. Typically, I want the strategy. I want to sit down and play a long board game. This here takes the easy filler idea of a flip and write or roll and write game and turns it into a gamer's game. With Hadrian's Wall, you are rolling some dice. You have this giant board in front of you. It's 2 papers that are the size of this box right here, and those papers are completely filled with things that you're having to do. You are picking characters, you are moving them around to spend them to build a wall, to fortify your actual fort itself. Maybe you are going out playing kind of these mini games over on the side where you are recruiting more people to help, or you are going to sell and trade some goods. All kinds of things happen in this game. It is a game where you are having to chain together one thing to give you another benefit that you can spend over here, that you can collect a different benefit to spend over here, so that you can increase a point here. So it's a lot of do this, to do this, to do this, to do this, to do that, to do that, to then eventually at the end gather a lot of points. I love Hadrian's Wall. We've played it several times. It is something that we have talked to a lot of people. There's a lot going on. Sometimes it takes a little bit of, okay, well, let's practice this. Let's do this. But by the second game, or by a few turns into the first game, usually everybody we've played it with has picked it up quickly. Check it out. You'll find it on Amazon. You'll find it various places online. I have not yet seen this at any of our friendly local gaming stores locally. We have 3 here that are local. 2 of them are mainly Magic shops, but they do have some board games as well. Check out yours. You may find this locally in stock. It is a newer game. It is a fabulous game. It is a gamer's game. Hadrian's Wall. Moving down the line to number 26. This is a game that I also do not own. It is another one of those thinky games. The play is very different. The first time I played it, I actually kind of freaked out. The game is called Iron Dragon. The game itself, the premise is you are controlling trains. You are building these engines that are making their way, building their tracks across this land. And the land has various terrain. And so in order to be able to build your tracks, it's going to cost you various resources depending on what type of or race of people you are. If you are working through the forest, you might want one race. If you're trying to build underground, you might want another race. And so you will actually filter through various races as you play the game. You will develop your tracks across the board because you will have objectives of having to get goods from one location to another. And if you own the track, if you've built it, it's going to be pretty much free for you to move. But maybe you have to work with others and you might have to pay them. Negotiation takes place in the game. I'm not a big fan of negotiation when it comes to the games, but with this game, it actually kind of works out pretty well. The game does get frustrating because sometimes events will occur. For example, with one of the games that we were playing, an event took place where 2 of us out of the 3 had to completely erase an entire giant chunk of our train tracks. What freaked me out about this game, and still kind of freaks me out a little bit, is that the game board, you actually use a crayon to draw on the entire game board trying to find your tracks, build your tracks. And so we actually had to take an eraser and erase all those crayon lines off and pretty much start from scratch already a couple hours into the game. It was frustrating, but we laughed through it. We still continue to laugh through it. It's a great game to pick up. Try something different. It's not one that I've heard a lot of people talk about, but it is one that you want to add into your collection if you don't have somebody that already owns it. One of my friends owns it. I'm looking forward to the next time we get to sit down and play this game. It's a thinker. It's a fun one. Check it out, Iron Dragon. Coming up next on my list, number 25, another game actually that I do not own. One of my dear friends, Sierra, actually owns all of it. And so when we get to play, usually I'm playing with her, and some other friends will jump into it as well. It's Disney Villainous. I did not think this was going to be on my list. I have enjoyed this game. I don't know a whole lot about Disney. I do have my favorites. I do love some Disney movies, but there are characters in Disney Villainous that I'm just not very familiar with. However, it's such a good game that you can still play even though you may not be completely familiar with the character. If you do know the characters, it's going to play so much better because now you're going to start to understand the objectives. It is an asymmetrical game. Every character is going to play different. It's action selection, so you will actually start working through trying to figure out, do I want to go to this block that's going to give me 3, 4, or 5 actions, or do I want to go to this block that's going to give me others? And as you play, people can curse you. They can do different things to harm you, which might cover up some of your slots. I think the Fate Dex is one of the things that makes this game unique. It is very much a solo play. I am doing my objective. I have to start around with something. It's curses. It may be puppies that I've collected if I'm playing Cruella de Vil. It just depends on who you're playing and what your objective is. It's very thematic. It fits perfectly with the movies. But some of these actions will cause you to fate other characters. And this is where you can put curses. You can put heroes into their realms. You're playing the villains. You don't want one of the heroes to come and stop you in your objective. And so it does have a take that aspect to it that gets quite fun and gets quite argumentative, if you will. We'll sit down and sometimes we'll play and it'll be peaceful. You might have a little bit of fading. Other times we'll sit down and it will be ruthless, cutthroat. You are constantly fading everybody else that's at the table, trying to gang up on others, trying to stop them from winning, trying to figure out who's close, who's not, who do we need to team up against. It has a lot of replayability, has a lot of fun to it. You can change up your characters quite frequently. And of course, as you fate people, you're going to play different because if you are blocked in various aspects, you got to figure out what you have to do. You have to try something new. I do like the mechanics of it. Not in my top 10. I'm kind of surprised it's this high up in my top 100, but it really is a fun game, especially with the expansions if you add them into it, and that is Disney Villainous. My next game is one that I've played for several years. This is a great game to be able to bring people into the hobby. It is Seven Wonders. Seven Wonders, if you've not played it, for one, it plays up to 7 people, which is insane when it comes to board games. You often don't find board games that play that high of a player count. You are pretty much building one of the wonders of the world. It is a card drafting game, so you have 3 ages that you're playing across. You pick up your cards, you choose one of them, you pass the rest of the hand to the next person, and that play continues. You play that card into your tableau, whether that is going to build an engine and give you more resources, or that's going to help you actually build out this wonder itself. It is kind of point salady, which I like. Different cards give you points in different ways, and at the end of the game, whoever has the most points wins. It's a little bit of an economic thought to it. Are you going to be able to buy special things? Like, do you need to buy resources from the person that's next to you? You have to have money to be able to do that. Is it worth that? Because money can turn into some victory points. There's a little bit of a military aspect to it. You're not really fighting in this game, but if you have a stronger military than the people to the right and the left of you, you can gain some victory points because of that. Or if you're weaker, you lose victory points. So you want to keep that in mind. You also can go for science. I love science. I'm a big science-minded person. Do you want to go into science and try to discover these different areas of science? If you do, you can exponentially get points quickly. It's up to you what strategies you want and what cards you're going to get into your hand. If you have never played Seven Wonders, it is worth picking up. I will say, do not play this 2-person. Do not. 3 to 7, perfectly fine. I find somewhere in the 3 to 5 person range, perfect. It does play fine. Up to 7, no problem at all. But this is a terrible game to play only 2 people. So do yourself a favor. If you're going to play this, find at least a 3rd person to be able to play with you. It's not worth the change of rules for 2 people. But it is a great game nonetheless. It's been out for quite a while. You'll now see a new reprint of it. So if you're at your friendly local gaming store, if you're at a big box store like Target, or I think even Walmart sells this now, you can definitely find it online. You'll find this all over the place. Check it out, Seven Wonders. Continuing on in the list, we've got a few more games left. Number 23 is another fun game that actually has replaced another game in my collection, and this is Space Base. The first time I played Space Base, I immediately remembered playing Machi Koro. If you've ever played Machi Koro, this is very similar to that. The difference with this is going to take place in space. You are building out a space base. It is a game that has a lot of luck to it, but it plays pretty quickly. You're rolling dice, you're using the value of your dice to do something. In Machi Koro, you are building out a city, and as you roll dice, you might have to eat at somebody else's restaurant, or you might be able to collect money from a payment of some kind. With Space Base, instead, you are working your way, building this space base, you are adding to your engine, and as everybody plays, just like with Machikoro, there are times that you're going to get benefits not only on your turn, but maybe on somebody else's as well. You may gain victory points, you may gain income, you may gain coins, and all of those are going to help you continue to build this engine, to upgrade this space base. Check it out. This game plays, I believe, up to 5. It is fun at 2. It is better at 3 to 5. It is a fun game that I think you will enjoy bringing to the table multiple times. Our gaming group loves it. We continue to bring it to the table on a regular basis. Space Base. Next game is another game that I actually do not own a copy of. One of my friends owns this, introduced me to this game several years ago, and it was the first I had played in a board game adaptation of a video game that I grew up playing. And that is Sid Meier's Civilization. Civilization is a beautifully complex game. Not overly difficult, but it is a game where you are sitting down, just like in a video game, and you are starting to build out your civilization. You start with a people group, you start with a culture, and within that culture, you are going to start to have to develop in certain ways. There is a technology track that you are able to gain your points, gain your influence, gain your abilities through expanding in this technology. You may go for the culture route instead and start to really develop your culture. Whichever track it is that you choose, typically you're going to stick with that track through the end of the game. Beautiful thing with Civ, though, is sometimes you can change that because you have to. You're not doing very well in one, you have to change ship. Do you do that? It's a long game. Do you have enough time to be able to make it all the way through? Is it too early to try to change? Do you want to risk it and just stick with the track that you started with? Or do you want to play the game where you're going to play a little bit of all the tracks and see how far you can get? It is a great game to pick up. I also have picked up another Civilization game, A New Dawn. It played very different. It was said to kind of fix some of the fiddly nature of Civilization. I didn't think it added a whole lot to the game. In fact, I think it took away a good bit of what made Sid Meier's Civ such a solid Civilization game. If you have an option between the two, between A New Dawn or the initial, I would say go with the initial. I liked it more than the other one. I know that kind of will cause some points of contention with people. Others love that game. Either way, Civilization is a great model to be able to play through. Check it out, Sid Meier's Civilization. And last on the list for this edition, number 21, another Seven Wonders game. This one here, if you remember me saying with Seven Wonders, do not play it two-person, this is the two-person game that Seven Wonders should have been when they tried to make a two-person variation. Seven Wonders should never have the variation to play two people. Pick up Seven Wonders Duel. It is night and day difference. You'll get the same feel of Seven Wonders. It's going to act like you are doing the same thing. You have technology to build up. You have sciences that you can explore. You have the battle, the military force that you can gain, or you can develop your strength to be able to gain those victory points. You are still developing wonders. Now you have the ability to develop multiple wonders as opposed to only one. And so that plays a little bit different. The mechanics of it, the drafting of it, obviously is going to play a little bit different because now you're only playing two people, you're not playing multiple people. This game plays pretty quickly. Brad and I were so impressed with it when we started playing this game that it instantly, I'm actually kind of surprised it's not higher on my list. I think the more that I play this, because this is newer to me, I think the more I play this, it's actually going to jump up a little bit higher on the list, and I actually see Seven Wonders dropping a little bit on my list as we go through this next year. Seven Wonders Duel. Great game, only plays two people, but is so worth picking up and adding into your collection. Small box, a lot of fun. Check it out. Friends, that is the end of my next top 10 out of the top 40 list. So that was games number 21 through 30. In prior video, you'll be able to go back and take a look at what was number 31 through 40. If you have enjoyed any of these games, let us know. Comment down below. Tell us what your thoughts are on some of these games. Did I miss the mark? Would you say that you prefer something else instead? Let us know. We'd love to see that. We'd love to communicate back and forth with you. If you enjoyed the video, like the video, Go down, subscribe, turn on notifications so you can see the rest of this top 40 list of my own games of all times, but also Brad's top 40 games of all times. We're going to culminate with us getting together, going through our top 10, kind of surprising each other with what's on our lists. You'll definitely want to stick around and see that. I can't wait to be able to film that video with Brad. So these are some of our favorite games. If you're interested in picking up any of these games, you obviously can find them online, but first and foremost, if you have the opportunity to do so, head out to your friendly local gaming store. You can take a look online, see where those gaming stores may be next to you, support local, stay around the community, and in fact, with some of those, if you've never been to them, actually a lot of them, you may find that they have these games ready to play in the stores. You don't even have to buy them. You can go in with some friends, or you can sit down, make some new friends, be able to play some new games, see if you like it, and if you do, pick up from your friendly local gaming stores. Support community. Friends, thank you so much. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope that we can see you around. Have a good one.